Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the Colombians Football Report. Today we're going to be talking about day 19 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And before we get into the games that took place today, 83% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that I can continue to grow and make better content in the future as a result of that growth. Now let's get back to the video, and today we're going to be talking about three games that took place in the round of 32. The first one was Brazil versus Japan, and people were excited for this game. A lot of people thought that this is the chance that we could see Japan shock a massive nation in the World Cup in the knockout stages, and it could have happened. They took the 1-0 lead, but Brazil, they ended up making the comeback and they silenced the Japanese dream. But it was still a great match. But the reality is that Brazil, they definitely deserved to win. They definitely had more chances in the game than Japan did. Suzuki had to make multiple good saves to keep Japan in the game. But in that first half, things were a little bit more equal because Japan, they had a tactic where they went on the counterattacks. They weren't as attacking as they were in the other games, but today they went on counterattacks, and in the first half they had some chances thanks to those counterattacks. Despite the fact that Brazil were clearly still the better team, Brazil were having more shots on goal, and Suzuki had to make some saves already in that first half. But when Japan they got the ball, they kept trying to push high up the field, and eventually that's how they took the lead. They went on a counterattack. Sano in the midfield, he had the ball, and he managed to run past Casemiro, who couldn't catch up to him. And when he was outside the box, he found some space and he shot it, and there was nothing Allison could do to save it. It was a great finish from him. And Japan were leading 1-0 thanks to that counterattack. So now at that point, Brazil were getting a little bit more desperate. In this game, they started crossing the ball way more than they did in the other three games combined. And at halftime, the manager, Carlo Ancelotti, took off Paqueta, a midfielder, so that he could bring on Endrick, so that he could try to equalize the game. And Brazil, they went all out in that second half. They forced Suzuki to make multiple saves. There was one where the ball didn't go over the line by a miracle. Somehow both the goalkeeper and the defender on the line managed to block the ball, and it didn't go in for Brazil. Brazil were applying way more pressure into the game. The Japanese defense was suffering, but Brazil, they just kept trying and trying. They put in more crosses, and eventually Gabriel, he put in a perfect cross for Casemiro, who was in the box waiting to head the ball, and he managed to finally put it past Suzuki, and finally Brazil had their equalizer. It was 1-1, and they definitely deserved it. At that point, Brazil were creating so much that they honestly deserved to be winning, but they were somehow losing. But Casemiro, pretty early in the second half, managed to equalize things for Brazil. And then almost straight away, like a minute later, they almost scored again. Vinicius Jr. was one-on-one with the keeper, but Suzuki made a brilliant save that managed to hit the post as well, and Japan got away with a huge chance from Brazil. But yeah, Brazil, they kept trying to get that winner before the end of the game. They kept forcing Suzuki to have to intervene. He was definitely Japan's best player today. He was unstoppable. I think for sure he's gonna go to a bigger club this summer because he's had some great performances at this World Cup. But it got to a point where they just couldn't hold on anymore. And unfortunately for Japan, it happened right at the end of stoppage time. Tanaka lost the ball high up the field, and Bruno Guimaraes took advantage. He saw Martinelli with a little bit of space in the box, so he passed it to him, and Martinelli managed to finish it. He came off the bench today, and he ended up being the hero. His shot actually was still almost saved by Suzuki. He managed to get a finger on it, but he couldn't keep it out, and the ball managed to like kind of trickle into the back of the net. And Brazil, right at the death, they managed to get that win that they needed in this very tough matchup. And Japan, they're out. And I think it's unlucky for Japan. I think if they had an easier opponent, they for sure would have gone through. They just got very unlucky to meet Brazil in the round of 32. But I think this goes to show that Brazil under Carlo Ancelotti, they look much more serious than they did in the qualifier. This Brazil looks like a team that could make it far because the reality is that Brazil played very well and they deserve to win this game by even more goals than just 2-1. But still an honorable effort from Japan, and Brazil are through to the next round. They will be waiting for one of the Ivory Coast or Norway. Now it's time to talk about the biggest shock of the World Cup round of 32 so far, and that is Paraguay eliminating Germany from the World Cup. Paraguay had a defensive masterclass today. The goalkeeper Orlando Hill, he had a masterclass today. And Paraguay, they managed to eliminate Germany from the World Cup. And for the third time in a row, Germany failed to make it to the round of 16 of a World Cup, which is just insane because before that run where they went 3 World Cups in a row without getting to that round of 16 stage, they won the World Cup. So since then, they've just been on a terrible run in the World Cup, and it just goes to show just how much football has fallen in Germany. In the first half, for the vast majority of the first half, Germany had all the possession, but they were not creating anything. If anything, Paraguay, on the very few times where they went on counterattack, they looked slightly more dangerous than Germany did. And that is despite the fact that Germany had like 80% possession for the first 40 minutes of that first half. Yet Paraguay, they were defending very well. They had a very good low block, and eventually they had a corner kick. It was cleared away, but then they got the ball back. Galasa Fonda, he had the ball. He managed to cross it in to Enciso with no one marking him in the box, and he headed it into the back of the net. There was nothing that Manuel Neuer could do to save it. And Paraguay were winning 1-0 against Germany right at the end of the first half. After that Paraguay goal, Germany, they upped the intensity a little bit, and they definitely were taking much more shots for the last few minutes of that first half. But Paraguay, they still weathered that storm, and they made it to halftime, winning 1-0. And I would say it's deserved because Paraguay, they were having a defensive masterclass. They weren't letting Germany have anything, and they had their one chance and they took it. But in the second half, Germany, they went with much more intensity. They weren't looking to just pass the ball around. They were looking to try to penetrate through the defense of Paraguay. And after many efforts of trying to get the equalizer, they managed to equalize the game relatively early in the second half at the 54th minute. A brilliant cross from Verts, who didn't have a great first half, but who woke up in the second half. He put it a perfect cross for Kai Havertz just to flick the ball into the back of the net. There was nothing that Hill could do to save it, and it was 1-1. And Germany, they started to take advantage of Paraguay losing a bit of their rhythm, and they tried to go for that second goal. However, the goalkeeper, Orlando Hill, he will always respond. He had a great game, like I mentioned earlier. And an unfortunate thing that happened in the game was Enciso getting injured. I don't think it's that serious, at least from what I saw. So he might still start the next game. But it was definitely worrying in this game because there was still so much time to go. And Paraguay, they had to play without their best player. And Paraguay, they continued to be very strong defensively. They were very compact. Canale had a great game. I think Cáceres had a great game as well. Gustavo Gomez, he was solid. And you have to remember that they didn't even have Alderete playing in this game because he wasn't fully fit. So it's a very honorable defensive effort from Paraguay. And they managed to take the game to extra time where Germany continued to be very dominant, and Germany were having a lot of corners, and it looked like that they were dangerous on those corners, and that's exactly how they managed to score. Jonathan Tah, he headed the ball into the back of the net, and Germany thought that they were had their winner, had the goal to make it 2-1, but upon a VAR review, it was seen that the substitute Anton was fouling the goalkeeper, and while many people were saying that it wasn't a foul, I think it was a foul. A lot of people don't think it's a foul because in the Premier League, a lot of those type of actions have not been given, which is why Arsenal were very strong, especially from set pieces in this season. But I think in the World Cup, where the referees are much more stricter, it makes total sense to call that as a foul because in the Champions League, those types of actions would also get called as a foul. The Premier League is the only place where an action like that doesn't get called, which I think that just shows that the Premier League has very bad referees. So the goal was disallowed, and then in the second half of extra time, Paraguay, they woke up a little bit. They kind of like calmed things down, and they managed to take the game to penalties. And if Orlando Hill didn't already have a good game at this stage, he became the hero in the penalty shootout. He saved Kai Havertz penalty. He saved Voltemares penalty. And Paraguay, they just needed to score one more penalty to win the shootout, and they had two tries. So even if they missed one, they could still try again. And Sanabria, he missed. So Paraguay, they still had the advantage. They still could have just saved a Germany penalty or scored the next penalty that they took, and they would have been through. Amiri managed to score for Germany, so it went to sudden death where the Paraguayan Balbuena, who came off the bench just to take the penalty, he could have become the hero, but instead he missed it. And at that moment, I thought that Paraguay, they choked it because they just needed to score one penalty with two tries, and they still managed to take the game to sudden death, take the penalty shootout to sudden death. But thankfully for Paraguay, he went up and he kicked a terrible penalty. It didn't even look like he was trying to score. It looked like he was trying to apply to become a kicker in the NFL. He sent that ball to the moon, and Paraguay, they needed to score the next one. They had the advantage again. They were given that lifeline. This time it was Canale who took it, and he had a great game, and he finished off his amazing game with the winning penalty for Paraguay. And after a lot of suffering, Paraguay, they managed to win the game on penalties. They're through to the round of 16, and this means that in Paraguay's second World Cup in a row, they managed to play 5 games because in 2010 they made it to the quarterfinals, so they played 5 games, and now this year with the expanded format, they're now in the round of 16 after playing 4 games, and their next game will be the fifth. So it's a huge win for Paraguay, and it's a huge win for CONMEBOL in general because a team like Paraguay, who were the worst South American team out of all of the ones who qualified, managed to eliminate Germany, a team who were off the back of a great European championship and whose a lot of their players had fantastic seasons with Bayern Munich especially. So this is a huge upset, and I'm very happy for Paraguay. They will now wait to see who will face them next in the round of 16. It will be one of France or Sweden. Now, the final game that we're going to talk about today is the one that took place in Monterrey, but it didn't feel like a game in Monterrey because the Moroccan fans, they took over, and it was a game between Morocco and the Netherlands. And like I mentioned, it felt like a Morocco home game because there were so many Moroccan fans. They're definitely among the best fans in international football right now. They are just always there no matter where their team plays. And you could tell today that Morocco, they played for their people and they managed to win this game on penalties. But in all honesty, they deserved to win this game way before that. They probably should have won this game during regular time and at worst during extra time. But it went to penalties and they ended up winning. But from start to finish, it felt like Morocco were definitely the better team. Now, the first half was definitely a bit boring for the neutral. There weren't that many chances for either team. Definitely there were some, but not too many dangerous ones. Granted, at the end of the first half, Morocco were very unlucky to not score, but that was probably the most dangerous chance of the game at that point. But despite the fact that it was a dull game, Morocco were still definitely the better team. And in the second half, the game exploded into life. Morocco, they started to pressure much more. Hakimi had a shot that went off the crossbar. Verbruggen had to make some saves. And the Netherlands were just struggling to create chances, and they were struggling to have the ball. They only ended the game with like 30% possession. So Morocco, they were dominating with the ball. And I can't say that it's too surprising because Morocco, they have a lot of very talented players with the ball at their feet. However, despite the fact that Morocco were definitely the better team, it was the Netherlands who took the lead. They went on a counter-attack after the substitute Weghorst. He managed to literally just come on and he headed the ball into space so that Somerville could get it. And Somerville, he ran into the box. He did fall down, but he still managed to get his pass across to Cody Gakpo, who managed to score the goal. And it was an emotional goal for him because just a few days ago, unfortunately, he and his partner managed to lose a child during pregnancy. there was a miscarriage. So it was a very sad moment for him and for the family, of course. But he still wanted to play in this game so that he could score a goal in memory of his unborn child. And it was definitely emotional. Everyone in the Netherlands team went to celebrate with him. He pointed to the sky, and I think that was one of the best moments of the World Cup so far, just because it's a moment that transcends sport, and it's all about life. So I wish Cody Gakpo the best. I hope that he's doing well mentally, and I wish the same for his family. But yeah, the Netherlands, they were winning 1-0 against the run of play, and I think that goal from the Netherlands definitely had Morocco a bit shell shocked, because for the next like 20 minutes they really didn't create much, and it felt like the manager was getting a little bit desperate. He put on a lot of young players. He took off Brahim Diaz, which I thought was brave at that time, and he put on a lot of young players like Yassine, Maldovet, Talbi, but Owabi's gamble as a coach, it managed to pay off, because eventually they would score the goal, and it was created by one of his substitutes, Talbi, who put in a brilliant cross. It was the first dangerous chance that Morocco had ever since the Netherlands scored, and they managed to score it thanks to a brilliant header from Diop after that cross from Talbi. And Morocco, right at the start of stoppage time, they had their equalizer, and Diop, he had a very cold celebration. I liked the celebration a lot. And Morocco, they saved themselves, and they definitely deserved it, because while it is true for the last 20 minutes they struggled, probably because they were in shock after going 1-0 down, they were still the much better team for all of the game. So they definitely still deserve that goal. And that goal got Morocco's momentum back. And you could feel it in the atmosphere as well. The Moroccan fans, they also woke up. And during extra time, Morocco were once again the better team. And I don't know how they didn't score when Rahimi was 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper and Verbruggen somehow kept the ball out of his goal. That should have been a goal. I think 99 times out of 100, those plays end in goals. But Verbruggen managed to make that save. Truly incredible save. One of the saves of the tournament. And thanks to that save, the Netherlands, they went to the penalty shootout. But during the penalty shootout, it felt like both teams, they almost wanted to lose, because they were both very bad from the spot. The Netherlands, they took the lead in the penalty shootout 1-0 after Koopmeijer scored, and after El Onai, he managed to miss his penalty. He hit it against the crossbar. But then straight after that, the Netherlands, they could have been winning 2-0, but the substitute Kluivert, he managed to hit his penalty against the post. So Morocco, they had the chance to equalize, and they managed to do it after Rahimi's penalty was saved by Verbruggen. But Verbruggen managed to accidentally kick the ball into his own net, because the ball had like a weird rebound, and he didn't realize it until the mistake happened. So Morocco got very lucky, but they were back level in the penalty shootout. Then after that, both Weghorst and Talbi scored, so it felt like finally these teams were both starting to kick their penalties better. But that wasn't the case, because after that, we saw a horrible miss from Timber, and it wasn't the Timber from Arsenal. It was Quinton Timber, the one from Marseille. But it was truly a pathetic penalty. He wasn't even close to hitting it on target. So Hakimi, he could have given Morocco the lead, but no, he managed to miss it as well. He hit it against the post. Everyone was just missing. It wasn't even that the goalkeepers were saving the penalties. They were just all missing them. That is until the last one from the Netherlands. Because Somerville, he went up next, and he actually got his ball on target. But we finally saw a goalkeeper save a penalty, because Bono, without even diving, he just kind of like jumped towards the same direction where the ball went. He just managed to palm the ball away. Truly spectacular penalty save from Bono. One of the best penalty saves I've seen in a very long time. And now Morocco knew that if they just scored the next penalty, they would be through to the round of 16, where they will face Canada. And it was Saibari who took the penalty, and he managed to score it. He has been one of Morocco's star players in this World Cup. No wonder Bayern Munich were desperate to sign him very quickly. And Morocco, they eliminated the Netherlands. On the same day, we saw both Germany and the Netherlands get eliminated. Two European rivals. And it is truly a shame for the Netherlands, because they had so much promise in the group stage. But I think this loss is all on Coleman, because they were playing so well. And then out of nowhere in this game, he decides to change the system to a five at the back formation. And I think that one of the main reasons as to why the Netherlands lost this game and as to why they played so badly throughout the entire 120 minutes. So in the end, Morocco, they got their deserved win, and they are favorites to beat Canada. They're favorites to make it to the quarterfinal, which would be a huge achievement for Morocco. And without a shadow of a doubt now, Morocco are one of the best teams in the world. And this is a team that could seriously win the World Cup. And I seriously mean that. Morocco are no longer dark horses. They are one of the favorites. They are up there with the big teams now. But that's going to do it for today's video, where we went over all the games that took place on day 19. What a day for football. What an amazing day for this tournament. We had many shocks, many good games, a lot of drama, and hopefully tomorrow we can get some more action just like we saw today. Please make sure to like the video. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel like I mentioned earlier, and have a good night everyone.